Welcome back to Busted Open. Doug Mortman, Dave LaGreca, and as promised, ridiculously excited to be joined by the author of Yes, My Improbable Journey to the Main Event of WrestleMania, the great Daniel Bryan. Daniel, Doug, Dave, glad to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
First of all, the book is amazing. So many books that I've read, wrestling books, and this may be the best one just because of great way of just going through your wrestling career. So many stories to talk about, but one that really kind of jumped out for me was the Nexus invasion and you getting fired, and then the talk that you had with Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was surreal, right?
Mm.
I had this very not negative attitude, but I had a not a very good experience with that first NXT run and everything. And then when he called and fired me, it was like it almost was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And so yeah, it was interesting.
Well, and the conversation that you had with Vince basically saying, hey, you know what? I can make more money on the indie scene.
Yeah, well, and that was one of my big frustrations because the only reason I had left the indie scene, I loved being an independent wrestler, was because I realized that I was getting a lot of injuries and I needed to make more money if I wanted to do this, right? And so otherwise, and I gave myself 2009 to kind of get signed by WWE and that sort of thing. And if I didn't, what I was going to do is I was going to cut back my independent wrestling schedule and focus on college. And because I've done this since I was 18 years old. I have no other job skills. I worked at KB Toys. I baled hay. I worked at McDonald's. Those aren't jobs that you want to do in your 30s, right? And so, so that was kind of my plan. But then when I went to WWE, I was actually making less money than I was on the independents because I was just doing the NXT show and that sort of thing. Wow. So yeah. And then with the high profile nature of my firing, I was like, I'm going to make bank off this. and of course my version of bank was different than people who've really made bank, their version of bank, but it's different. So.
Yeah, speaking of different, it's got to be a completely different scene on the indies now. I mean, think about it. The American Dragon for Ring of Honor back in the day. I mean, we were huge Bryan Danielson marks. So, I mean, at that time, it's unfathomable that the money was that low. I'd like to think as it continues to grow, people could do better. Not really where I'm going. That was just my particular opinion. Gotta kind of cut to the chase here because we have limited time with you. The book is phenomenal. Yes, your road to WrestleMania 30, which was out of control. We spoke to you at WrestleMania 30. Got great background on that. But obviously, it's a different time now. We're sad. We want our Daniel Bryan fix. We've seen recent interviews where you sound resigned that you are coming back. You will wrestle again. Is there any chance that WWE won't clear you to wrestle for WWE?
Yes, there is that chance, and I have told them, regardless of them, if they won't clear me, we're independent contractors in theory, and I will wrestle again. I'm cleared by the neurologist in Phoenix that I've been going to see, who is it's not like he's a quack doctor. Sure, he was the neurologist for the Super Bowl, right? Who has no problems clearing me with no limitations. But you also have to understand that WWE has to. They're not only looking out for my best interest, but they have to look out for their company as well. And I understand all of that too. There's nothing vindictive or anything. There's just a lot of hurdles to go through at this point with getting cleared with WWE. So yeah, so there's that.
So Gabe and Dixie are going to be waiting by the phone saying, wait, what did WWE say?
No, yeah. It's just a matter of hey, this is my passion. And when I had a sit down meeting with Vince and Hunter about this, and I said, this is my passion. I understand why you guys wouldn't clear me, but we only get, as far as we know, one life, and
sure,
you're not gonna let me do my passion, right? So
at the same time, we're kind of deep inside your life because we watch Total Divas, so we get to keep track of you, obviously, months behind, but nevertheless, we learn a lot. We see the bits and pieces that through that show and live vicariously. What would Bree say to you wrestling again? Because you're a family man. She obviously adores you. You adore her. And there's a risk. This is not a knee injury. This isn't a hip. This is your neck.
Yeah.
You know, so what does Bree say about
Well,
it?
it's not a neck issue. My neck is completely fine. It's actually more of a concussion issue. And
That's great to know.
and so Bree was very hesitant about this whole thing, given and that's why WWE is very protective of
Sure.
me too, you know, and everybody's more aware of concussions, and that's why this is such a what WWE, I don't see it what they're doing as far as like making me go through all these hurdles, like I don't see that as a negative. They're protecting me, right? And especially in this era of concussion awareness. But Bree at first was very like, you know, I'm not sure given your history. But when we were meeting with the neurologist in Phoenix and we went through all the testing, and he was explaining like, okay, all of my testing is not just coming back good, it's coming back excellent, as far as like my brain right now is at a level above most people who have never had a concussion my age, right?
Okay.
Like as far as like when you're looking at scores of like okay, bad, poor, fair, good, great, excellent, it's in like those great to excellent levels. And so so all of that to say, she has gone from being like very skeptical about it to being very supportive of me and of me being able to wrestle again. And she's somebody who will flat out say like, I'm not just interested in what happens to him 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and she doesn't care about the money or anything like that. She's interested in where I'm at 20 years from now.
So it was two separate injuries. Is this what I gather? And and I'm saying your original issue that put you on the shelf, and now to this injury, separate injuries, correct?
Separate things. Yeah, my neck is fine. My neck feels great.
That's
like
dope.
overall.
Your arms are strong, because that was always the thing, that your arm is feeling the numbness. And
well, the deal with my arm, and this is they told me this because I had waited so long to get the surgery. My right arm might never get back to the full strength of my left arm.
Right.
So like right now it's about 85%, you know, and it hasn't improved much in a while, you know, but there's because the nerve had been cut off for so long, there's a very good chance that will never come back. So but it's not like, okay, I'm feeble with my right arm. It's like,
you look pretty good.
So yeah, so my left hand, and we're going mostly by grip strength, because my tricep strength and all that kind of stuff is equal on both sides. My grip strength on my left hand is about 150 pounds of pressure, and my grip strength on my right hand is about 130 pounds of pressure. The average person my age, the average male, is around 100 pounds of pressure. So it's not like I'm, you know, poor me. It's just, you know.
So I'll be about 60.
Yeah, and I'd be 45.
Right.
All right, and last quick one, and then we want to get off the injury stuff. The head injury, was that the Luke Harper match? When did that happen?
No. And everybody,
they show that though.
Yeah. So it's funny because Steve Austin actually it reached out to me and be like, hey, all those suplexes that Luke Harper, you need to cut that crap out, you know, and like just but it wasn't that. It was just a random thing. It was after that. It was on the European tour, and then
and it wasn't the Sheamus when he tossed you into the table and you split your head open.
No, that when I split that open, that was actually my own fault for headbutting Sheamus, and it was funny because I have headbutted a lot of people, and very very rarely have I gotten busted open.
Thank you for the plug.
Ding.
Yeah, but. You know, so Dolph and I had headbutted each other at WrestleMania,
yeah,
and then the next night on Raw we headbutted each other, and neither of us got bloody. Then I headbutted Sheamus, I got bloody. Like a week or two later, Dolph headbutted Sheamus and he got bloody. Sheamus just has like a really hard head, got that big Irish potato head, you know, like. So yeah.
Well, in the book you talk about headbutting. You talk about a match with Nigel McGuinness where you guys were just going back and forth, and you were busted open, and about. You talk about concussions and everything. I mean, you really did have to change your style of wrestling once you went to the WWE, and also for safety precautions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually one of the most intriguing reasons for me to go to WWE. I've been given this ability to do anything I want on the independents, right? And most of the guys some of them are a little bit bigger than me, you know, like, and especially when I'd go to Japan and that sort of thing. But like on the independent level, most of the guys were maybe a little bit bigger than me, but not so much, so I could do more stuff. And then it's all of a sudden creating, can I adapt to this style where predominantly you're wrestling 3 and 4 minute matches against guys who are much larger, where I can't I'm not going to be throwing German suplexes and dragon suplexes and tiger suplexes and all that kind of stuff that I was doing on the independents. Can I adapt to all of that and still be good, right? And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Las Vegas to train kickboxing and grappling and all that kind of stuff, because when you go over and you watch like Yuji Nagata and Kenta and all that kind of stuff, I saw that and I was like, the way that they kick and the way that they wrestle, Yuji Nagata could do that against Big Show, right? and it wouldn't change his style much,
So
right?
true.
Same thing with Kenta. And so it was kind of taking this approach of like, what steps do I need to do to take to where if I were to go to WWE, I could still be effective in this role that I'm at.
When you come back to wrestle, I'm not going to say if now, when you come back to pro wrestling, wherever it is the style going to change even more? Are we going to see the flying headbutt off of the top rope? Or are you going to scale back a little bit?
I think it has to change, but it has to change for a multitude of reasons. You know, Bree has been on me about like, hey, your style needs to change. Steve Austin was on me, your style needs to change. You know, WWE was on me, your style needs to change. But even when I came back from my neck injury, I wasn't doing the diving headbutt. I would actually, I would miss the diving headbutt, which people don't understand is actually easier on my neck than actually hitting it. Like, oh, okay, you know, it still sucks, but it's just, so yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I will have to change my style, but that's one of the nice things, but also the frustrations about this is that my brain thinks in wrestling, and so like I'm stylistically thinking of changing all the time. Like even before anybody said anything that you need to. I want to, just for the creative aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, Doug and I have talked about this so many times on the show, but you really brought wrestling back to the WWE. That was kind of like a curse word for a while, pro wrestling and wrestling, and you did bring that back. So you are a superstar, but first and foremost, you are a wrestler.
Yeah, it was interesting because my very first WWE t-shirt was a gray shirt. And somehow I got the word wrestling on it, or wrestler, or something like that. And it was weird when they showed that to me. I was like, "Is that okay that this says wrestling or wrestler or whatever it ended up saying?" And like still, but they still have to kind of coach me on it, like as far as I'm doing tough enough and that sort of thing, and have to say like, instead of saying, "Are you sure that you want to be a wrestler?" I say, "Are you sure you want to be a WWE superstar? Are you sure you want to be a diva?" And like because my brain doesn't work like that, because it's always weird for me to sit, and I hear Bree doing other interviews, right? And she goes, and sometimes just being a diva is hard. And when you take that out of context of what people know, like, wait, what do you mean being, like, you have to put effort into being like this, like this bratty, like when I think of the word diva, I think of somebody who's bratty and like, wants nothing but green M&Ms or whatever in their locker room.
That's like Dave.
Yeah.
I was going to say my first wife, but yeah, I hear where you're going.
Yeah. And the same thing with us. Like, it feels weird to me to say like, oh yeah, I mean, it's really hard to be a superstar. What? I mean, I wouldn't define myself as I'm branded as a WWE superstar, but I don't feel like I'm a superstar, right? Like, Tom Cruise is like a superstar, the president is a superstar, I can walk around New York City and people will say, oh, Daniel Bryan, but nobody's like, ah!
There's some people in the studio that are after they're going to be like,
oh yeah, once we sign off, I'm going to be, but we were at the Hard Rock before WrestleMania 30 when you did your press conference and you had the suit on.
Nice suit.
Yeah, it was a great suit, but you did seem kind of like a fish out of water a little.
Yeah, well, and that's I don't know if that's my appeal. I hate to say it, like, oh, your appeal is that you're uncomfortable in those kind of situations, and like, well, I don't know if that's a good, like, you'd think at this point I'd be very comfortable. Like, I feel very comfortable with this, right?
Sure.
Like, we're all just hanging out, we're just talking, it's whatever. But no, okay, so we've got media here, and we want you to dress up in a suit, and you're going to stand up on stage and talk to people about how important what you're about to do is. And that's like, because I have a hard time doing things that aren't genuine, right? Like, I have a very hard time of being like, with all of that kind of stuff.
That's why everybody that's why you have the 2 million Twitter followers. That's why you have the WWE universe, the busted open nation, the pro wrestling world that loves you, because you're a genuine guy. That's why we can relate to you.
Yeah, and when I try to do something that's like outside of my realm, I'm very uncomfortable. unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that has its good parts and its bad parts.
So Dave mentioned WrestleMania 30, and again, yes, this book, yes, my improbable journey to the main event of WrestleMania. Amazing stuff in here, and something that we got the seedlings for there and just started to understand, and then it took it to a whole nother level at WrestleMania 31. It's Conor Michalek and his love of you. And you enshrining him into the Hall of Fame posthumously, there was not a dry eye in the house. I know we were bawling, both as fathers and just people being a part of it and understanding how significant it was and how courageous the young man was. And I can't imagine how it was for you to put him into the Hall of Fame that night last year.
Yeah, and actually, I was very uncomfortable doing it. As far as like when they asked me to do it, I was like, I don't know about this, only because I don't know if I will be well suited to this, because this is something that, one, I don't know if I can get through it without crying, especially. So you have to understand kind of the circumstances too. So Dana Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior's wife, was introducing me. I was introducing Conor's dad. So WrestleMania happened on a Sunday. Monday Night Raw happened. Tuesday or Wednesday, I think Ultimate Warrior passed away, and that's Dana's husband, right? Then Bree and I get married on the Friday. We go on vacation, or we go on our honeymoon on the Sunday. We come back the following Sunday. My dad passes away on the Monday. Wednesday, Conor passes away. So you have to think, for the three of us, this thing is a very sad, like, for all three of us. It's bringing up things for all three of us, and it's the Warrior Award and all that kind of stuff. But also I felt like I just couldn't do it justice, and the one of the things that really kind of is hard for me is people saying like, "Oh, that thing that you did for Conor was so good," and it wasn't. You have to understand that it wasn't me. What was amazing about it was, then the real story to it is not me and Conor. The real story is Conor's dad.
Yeah.
Right? Because the part of the story that's never told is that how hard his dad had to work and the walls he had to bust through to get that for Conor, because something had happened where he'd already had his Make-A-Wish before I had met him. And so, but then he got really infatuated with me and my thing. And so they were, every time that he tried to get something, it was like, no, sorry, no, sorry, no, sorry. And so what he did is he got people around him and helped create this video, like asking me to meet him, right? And then the community support around that, is how I found out about Conor, through social media and stuff, and how WWE found out about Conor. And then once you meet Conor, it's easy to fall in love with him, right? But his dad at every step was doing thing for the love of his son, right? And it's this, you see, when he was standing there with his son, and Conor wasn't doing very well, right? This is very hard for me to talk about, even now. But the thing isn't me going up and hugging Conor. The thing is his dad going through all of those lengths to give his son that moment, right? And so, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting
We're all right there with you.
Yeah. So.
No, it's a special, and thank you for giving that to us and sharing that with us, because like Doug said, being in that arena and even seeing the videos that they have at all the live events, I get teary-eyed every time.
Yeah.
And now when we think of WrestleMania 30, we don't just think of Daniel Bryan, unified, undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. We think of the story, and we look at Conor on the WWE Network, or when we look back at that amazing moment in New Orleans where we were there. And it's just another part of not only your legacy, but his legacy that will always live on. And, this just goes to speak to you and the kind of genuine person you are and giving person. And, couldn't have happened without either side. And that's what makes it so great. Wish we had more time. Yeah. We're getting the old hook. But listen, we will see you back sometime soon. Can't wait for that day. The book is amazing. Yes, My Improbable Journey to the Main Event of WrestleMania, authored by a legend in his own right, Daniel Bryan.
We actually joked with Boomer Esiason earlier today that it was that it should be called My Improbable Journey to Marrying Brie Bella, because they were like,
That's a good one.
They were like, you don't look like somebody who should be marrying that woman.
Well, my boss always uses the line, you outkicked your coverage on that one.
And then in the book, too, you get into a great story about the first time, you and Brie got intimate. And,
Hey.
Sheamus breaking in and stuff like that. So,
it's funny, my buddy Christoph, and I know we have to go, but I'm a yak or whatever.
It's all good.
My buddy Christoph, he married well, and his brother Evan, who were all friends, married well, and that's what he said. He said, you know what, the three of us, we married well. If we didn't do anything else right in the rest of our lives, we married well.
It's a perfect tease for the book.
Right.
You gotta get it. Yes. Daniel Bryan, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.